one after. So welcome in Coach Keith Smart. And we'll have Bob Holt get us started, please.
Okay. Hey, Keith, how you doing?
I'm okay.
Beat writer with the Arkansas Democrat Gazette.
Okay.
Nice to see you and talk with you.
Mhm.
You've obviously got a really impressive, extensive coaching
Mhm.
resume, but it's all been in the pros. This is your first college job. I was
Mhm.
just wondering how you think you'll make that transition. And was that, Eric obviously did the same thing a few years
Mhm.
ago. How much do you guys talk about that?
Well, Bob, thanks. Once I'm excited to finally meet some of you guys and also be able to talk, and how excited I am about having my opportunity to start my college coaching career. Obviously being on this side of basketball, a pro side for such a long time, but I'm actually going to be dealing with and living with and working with a blueprint to all of that. Eric Musselman, who has gone through the entire process from coaching in the NBA and then going to be an assistant coach, and then eventually getting his head coaching opportunity, and then now being here at Arkansas. I get to see that every day, what the process is, spoon feeding me. Hey, Keith, basketball, we got that. We're going to get all those things there. It's all the other little intangible things that you'll have to develop into. And so I'm working with someone that can point me in the right direction, plus the other staff members. It couldn't be a better situation for me to fall into, because you have so many of the veteran coaches who have coached in college, that have communicated with the young high school kids and recruiting on those trails, that can kind of spoon feed me those things there. And I think they give you a parameter to work in, and you develop and work and develop your style and habits in the new environment. But I can't tell you how important it was for me to fall into a place that I can see someone who has already gone that route, and someone that I know personally.
And then I guess between your playing career and your coaching career, college, everything,
Mhm.
you were connected to a team for about 40 years in a row. And
Mhm.
then the last 2 years you weren't. I know a lot of coaches kind of recharge their battery. I know Eric, I think, did
Yeah.
that
Yep.
when he left Sacramento before he went to Arizona State. But what have you been doing? Like where have you been living? What have you been doing? And
Mhm.
was it sort of a conscious choice to sit out a little while, or was it more about,
Mhm.
you couldn't find the right fit until now, or kind of what's that been like? Not coaching. How anxious are you to get back into it?
Well, I was with New York Knicks, and head coach there was David Fizdale, and I was working with him. And obviously, Knicks made a change. I was the first assistant, along with him being the head coach, and we were let go. And that happened in professional sports. And then during that process, I had an opportunity to go back last year. Obviously, the pandemic year kind of shifted things, but I have a young son who's a college athlete, plays football, University of Hawaii. And I wanted to take the time with the opportunity that I had, to spend time and watch him play in his senior year. Now, obviously, COVID hit, slowed everything down, could not visit out. And a lot of those kids pretty much got an extra year. All the college kids got an extra year to come back and play this year. So I took that process there. But along the way of that process, I said, let me take a look at colleges and take a look and see if that's something that I might want to do. And I got involved with Indiana University. They called, I went through the process with them, and that kind of got my juices flowing a little bit about potentially going into college and coaching. But during that time frame, I started to watch a lot of college basketballs while I was away from it, because I wasn't involved in the NBA. So I just looked at college coaches and watching what they were doing and how they were playing. Of course, I'm following Eric and other coaching friends that I have, and that started to get me moving in that direction.
And then like your house there,
Mhm.
where have you been living the last couple of years?
Well, I'm in California. When I came out here, actually, when I came here to the Bay Area, Oakland, California, with Eric Musselman in 2003. So we came here and have been here ever since. It's been my base. Once my kids got to high school, my wife said we were not going to move them around, want to keep them in a high school, and that way they can be kind of rooted there. And so we just simply stayed here. So all my coaching travels and places I've gone, we kept our home base here. My wife wanted to make sure we kept things intact so that they can have a familiar environment.
Okay, so you living in Oakland?
Yeah, I live in an area called a city called Dublin, which is about 35, 40 minutes from Oakland.
Okay, cool. Well, I've got a few more, but I'll
Yeah.
turn it back over to Mike. Thanks, Keith.
Okay.
Nate Allen.
Yeah, Keith, as far as just using your pro experience in recruiting,
Mhm.
just how do you feel you can relate, especially with everybody who plays basketball anymore thinks they're NBA bound as far as using that?
Well, I shared this with other people. I said, for each of these young men that I'm going to come in contact with, every road that they're going to try to travel on, I've been on that road already. I can share with them from not for me, in my case, wasn't recruited out of high school. Went off to junior college and got recruited from there, understanding that portion of it, going to college, graduating from college, getting drafted into the NBA, getting cut from the NBA, playing basketball overseas, all around the world. They're going to be on one of those roads that they're going to go on. And so I think me selling myself to them and what they're going to face as they move forward through life, I think that's part of the recruiting that angle that I will employ, because they're going to be there. They're going to go on those routes, and I can share my experience from each one of those that they're going to go on. What it's going to take to get into the NBA, that's where they all want to go. Every young athlete, he wants to get to the next level in any sport. And I think I can share my experience with a lot of these young men that I'm going to come in contact with, as well as their families.
What about as far as the patience have you been working with, professionals as far as just kind of working with guys that aren't at the same developmental stage as the ones you've worked with in the past?
Yeah, well, I think sometimes people take a look at the professional player, the professional athlete, and think that because of what he's earning, his status, those guys all want to be coached. They all want to be coached. They all want to have the truth told to them, and they want to continue to develop. The same thing happens at that level. They want to do all those things. And so some of these young men are not at the skill level yet, but some are very far advanced in their skill level. So I think they all want to get better. They all want to have the opportunity to develop and become really good players. And I think that's going to be an easy selling point for me. You have patience. I mean, as our league, I've been through our league for a long period of time and watched it evolve, from the older players to the mix of veterans and young players to now a gluttony of young teams with young players. I was in New York. We had players that were 19 years old. My son was older than a couple of players on that team, so I'll still be able to get them to understand that everyone wants to get better. And how do we get better? It's not about where you are now, it's where you're trying to go, is what I try to share with these young men. And I think it won't be a big issue because I work with pros and I've worked with young players as well.
Have you already taken, I guess it used to be the NCAA, you'd have to have tests before you could recruit. Have you already gone through all that?
Oh, I'm in the process of all that right now. Once I get into Arkansas, because I'm not there yet, because you have to be there, I'll get into that process and start moving from there.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Andrew Hutchinson.
Hi, Keith. I was wondering if you could maybe give us some insight on how you ended up here at Arkansas. Did you reach out to Coach Musselman? Did he reach out to you, or how did that process go?
Well, I was. Anytime I saw Coach, coaching a game and things like that, I would text him little things like, he's jumping on top of a table or he's doing certain things, showing you have a vertical now. You didn't have one back then. But I watched his games, the place that he's coached, because there's a connection there. And when I was going through the process with Indiana University, now he obviously knew I was thinking about college, and I went through with a couple other schools. And I asked questions to him about the college. While he was in a tournament, I had some questions for him, and he would answer those questions that I had. And so the process started there, but never a point where he was saying, hey, come over here, because there was no availability with his staff. And then obviously when there was some availability for the staff, he reached out to me. He said, hey, what do you think about this? And I didn't hesitate when he asked that question. I said, if I'm going to look at college, what better place and better person to be around to grow into it, take my ego off from all the years of coaching in the NBA and doing what I was able to do, just come back and just be a student under Coach Musselman and his staff and then learn and grow. What I do know, from my coaching standpoint, is I know the game of basketball and all those things you need to do with relationship building. And then what I don't know, I'm in a great environment to learn from him and grow from his staff as well.
And also, you have kind of the unique perspective of having played for Coach Musselman and also coached with him in the past.
Yeah.
Has he changed much? Has he always been kind of the same guy? You said you've kind of followed him recently. So has he always been this way?
Oh yeah, he's been that way. From the day that we met, I think it was '89 when I went out to Rapid City, South Dakota to play for him. That high intense energy that he brings. I'll call him, text him some mornings, and I say, I know you're on a treadmill, a bike, or something, going through mounds of information, preparing for your day, and sure enough, he's doing those things. So yes, the relationship that we've had over the years, and I think starting way back in '88, '89, he hasn't changed a bit. He's gotten much more polish in what he's doing and how he wants to do it. But far as his approach to coaching, his approach to winning, his approach to relationship building, all those things have just grown, over the years.
Curtis Wilkinson.
Hey, Coach, welcome to Arkansas. I'm curious, I don't know how much film you've been able to watch. You mentioned that you watched some of the games. But just curious on, maybe your evaluation of the team that you're walking into and what you think the potential is of this group.
Well, I just based on watching them in the tournament and then looking at some film right now, I won't get into, because I'm not there yet. I'm not going to get into so much of where they can go, but they're a good team. They're going to come into the season being a very good team and going to have good, talented players with a chance to keep growing toward that direction and ultimate goal. So that portion of watching the film on them and watching them play in the tournament, you saw the intensity of how they play. That starts with how the coaching staff and, of course, how Coach Musselman, the energy he brings every day. So the chance of them being good is very high. And now it's just a matter of all the pieces fitting, because you do lose some players and you gain some new players, and you got to see how that dynamics will come together.
And then I'm sure you probably have a pretty lengthy to-do list that's building up. I'm just curious, as you officially join the staff here, what are some of the top priorities for you?
Coach and I joked about this. We were talking a little bit of basketball, about, hey, coaches, let's think about this play. Let's think about that defensive understanding. And I can hear it in his voice. He's saying, yeah, I understand that. But here's your list of players to start looking at and gather your information. So when you start your process, you can hit the ground running. And so of course, the last 3 days, that's all I've been doing is creating a database for myself, how it works for me, along with what they're sending me, and getting a face relation to the players that are on my list, and who their parents are and things like that. And so when my time comes to start reaching out, I can have a face identity with whomever it is that I'm going to be talking to.
Thanks, Coach.
You're welcome.
Kevin McPherson.
Welcome to the Arkansas staff, Keith. You were a guard in college basketball. Everybody knows that. But when you look at the college game now and the way the game's played, it's a lot different than when you did. Arkansas's roster right now looks to be guard heavy. Have you had a chance to consider some of that and what you'll bring to the table to help guards out in playing the game the way it is now?
Oh, yeah, I definitely, because I always played and worked in an environment for 9 years in Golden State Warriors. And that kind of trend and working for Coach Don Nelson. And, Musselman kind of started a little bit as well with some of the quote unquote small ball. So with the way that they play now is getting up and down the floor, being able to shoot the basketball is very important. Obviously drawing fouls and getting to the free throw line that helps your overall offensive production. With the way that my approach to guard training is that you have to play with a tremendous amount of intensity. I think that's why Coach Musselman and I hit it off so well and have kept a relationship when I played for him, that he could trust that I was going to practice hard, extremely hard. I was going to work at it, and he can count on me in basketball games. That's what I'll share with the guard play, and any of the members of the basketball team. But this game is so guard heavy now that you have to have players to be able to get to certain spots on the floor to make plays for themselves and for their teammates. And I think I can share with some of the stuff that I've learned and grew with over the years with all the guards that I've been able to be around and help develop. I'll share those same things with these young men here.
Now, another question here. Speaking about your college days, it's an exclusive club to hit a big shot in a national title game. Arkansas had one of those in Scotty Thurman. Yeah. Do you know Scotty? Have you ever met him, or have you know, that is an exclusive club. So I always wonder if players that have done that are in communication or reach out.
Well, I haven't met him, but you know, we talked about another player, Mario Chalmers, and I coached him in Miami. And so when my first day on the job there, he said to me, "You weren't the only one to make a shot, you know." And I'm sure if I meet Scotty, we would come around the same thing. Conversation. You know, I had a chance to be around Jordan, and we talked about our shots. The late Lorenzo Charles and his shot that he made. You know, so that group that are close. Was a close-knit group bound by the moment that they had. And I'm sure there'll be others that have that opportunity. But being in that group, you know, it's always a fantastic moment when you can do that and get into the championship and have a chance to win it all. And your shot is one of the determining factors.
Thank you. Once again, welcome to Arkansas.
Thank you.
Bob Holt, follow up.
Yeah, Keith, you mentioned the Indiana job, and I was Googling you, and I saw that your name came up. They obviously did go the NBA route with Mike Woodson. But was that a good experience for? I guess you probably interviewed with him. Was that a good experience?
That was an excellent experience. That was, you know, I think that really kind of opened my eyes. Not only that, but my son being a football player, got recruited and all those things there, and being around his teammates. I think that all played a great part in there. But I think going through the process with Indiana, really kind of, you know, talking with the AD and being able to share my thoughts and ideas about my coaching, and then him sharing, you know, what he thought would be necessary as well. You know, obviously wanted to, at that stage, a former player to come back and coach there. And obviously they hired a great one in Mike Woodson, who played there also and coming from the NBA. But that did open my eyes to it. And I knew I needed to know more about the process. You know, what else do you need to go into? And Coach Musselman and I talked about this. You know, he shared with me, he thought that the fact that he did become an assistant coach first in college really helped him in his next stops as head coaches. So I think that was the starting point of being there, involved in that process, and being able to talk to a few other schools really opened my eyes to it.
And you mentioned in the news release the other day that you'd been recruited by Nolan Richardson.
Yeah.
Who all did you? I mean, that was a long time ago. I was wondering maybe who all recruited you, and did you take a recruiting visit to Arkansas, or how strongly did you consider Arkansas?
Well, Arkansas was in my top five when I made my recruiting visit, and Coach Nolan Richardson and I we kind of joked because we had a little scheduling conflict. He wanted me to come over the weekend. They had a game and wanted me to see the game and see the atmosphere of what it was like in the arena. But at the same time, I had already made an appointment to go visit Indiana. So I came in the middle of the week on my visit there. And then I left Arkansas and went to Indiana. And I really wanted to come to Arkansas because a couple of players that I've gotten to know over the years, when I first saw Sidney Moncrief on the cover of the magazine when he's playing for the Milwaukee Bucks, I knew that was someone that I wanted to kind of be like, and find out that he went to Arkansas along with Darrell Walker and then Alvin Robinson, who I played with at San Antonio. Those three guys opened my eyes to want to play basketball, that style of play, during my days. And that's why I visited, Arkansas. And when Nolan Richardson came out to visit me at Garden City Community College, made an impression that allowed me to put them on that quote unquote list of schools that I wanted to go to.
Is it a deal where it's just hard to tell Bobby Knight no, or?
Well, I think the same thing could have happened if maybe I would have saw the game and saw all the excitement in the arena. Maybe that would have been the selling point for me. But then when I went to Indiana and saw the exact same thing, saw that game and those students those athletes run out on the floor and saw the explosion of noise, that kind of maybe pushed me over to the other side of wanting to choose Indiana. But Arkansas was definitely one of the top 2 schools that I was going to try to attend.
Yeah, Nolan Richardson still lives here, so hopefully you guys can connect. I mean, it's kind of interesting about all, I don't know, 30 some years later, you visited Arkansas, didn't decide to go elsewhere. Now here you are at Arkansas, It took a while to got here,
Yeah, well, I just felt it was almost like a full circle for me to come back to an environment. Michael Ratliff was my host when I came on the visit, and he just shared with me about the goodness of playing there at Arkansas, and me feeling that love that I had when I came here from the coaching staff, and then obviously making the decision to go to Indiana. And thus, that decision to go to Indiana probably put me in a position to where I can come back and be a coach, because I think it all worked out.
One more, the shot. Talking to Scotty over the years about his shot. He appreciates it. He's proud of it, but he said, "Hey, I did other things. I've done other things too." But do you still find that people talk to you about that shot? And even though a lot of the players you've coached weren't alive when you hit that shot, I mean, just how has that impacted your life, I guess?
Well, I think when something like that happens, I always said that moment chases you. It continues to chase you because you're going to be identified with that big moment. And, from being in the sport for so long, I travel my bags and they have my name tag on there, and people will remember and talk about the story, what they were doing when that shot went in, and how they felt about it. It was a great moment when you have a chance to do those things, and you just have to understand, which for me personally, I start to understand that, hey, a fan comes up to you and talk about the shot and everything and the moment that they were involved in and what they were doing. I don't rain on their parade. I just let them live in that moment and just kind of share my excitement of winning it and taking a shot to do that. Because it's their moment. When they come up to you with all the excitement, you don't want to push them away and make them feel like, that you don't want to talk about it. I try to make them feel as comfortable as they were coming up to me.
Okay, I might have a couple more, but I'll get it back to Mike if others have questions.
Okay.
Anybody else have any follow-ups for Keith other than Bob? Okay, Bob, a couple more.
Okay, well, another big, now it wasn't a title game or a Final Four, but U.S. Reed, hit that half-court shot against Louisville back in. And I remember talking to U.S. about that, and he said, "Hey, not a day goes by, people don't ask me about it. I love talking about it. I appreciate being remembered." Do you kind of have that same? I mean, it's very, genuine of you to always, don't tell people, "Hey, I'm sick of talking about that." You're the millionth person to ask me. I mean, to be so gracious, but do you also, U.S. said he just appreciated that people remembered it, and do you sort of have that feeling too?
Well, I think I enjoy it, with when people talk about it, but not so much that, where I hang on to it, where I don't, for me personally, I think sometimes I don't think about it. My son made a big catch this year in football, and he kind of made a huge leap and got up to shoot the basketball. To catch the football. And I got up on a jump shot that was pretty high on my jump shot and made it. And they put the picture together. And I said, son, I think you may be able to out-jump me now, And he just laughed. I think moments like that, when there's a flashback, or I went to when my sons were playing basketball and someone made a shot and they screamed out, "Just like your father." He made a shot, So those things that, when people come, like I said earlier, when they come to talk about that shot, I don't, shy away from it. I let them have their moment.
And then, just got one more. I remember talking to Eric about this when he got here, and he talked about how rare it is that a former NBA head coach, it's not rare for a former NBA head coach to become an assistant again. That happens in the NFL, all the pro sports. But it's pretty rare for a guy to go from being an NBA head coach to a college assistant. And he said he kind of had to humble himself, but he just felt, hey, that's what I want to do. Like you said, to learn more about recruiting and just, the college game. Did you sort of feel like you had to humble yourself a little bit, or how did you approach that?
When I talked to Coach about this, about coming there, I said first off, and he knows me, so I wasn't selling it myself to him. I said, I have no ego about this. I want to grow. I think as a coach or as a person, you want to do in life is to keep evolving and keep growing. And I thought that I had to take out what I've been and what I've been able to do, which was easy for me to say, okay, I need to learn from someone who's been through the process. And so the ego, if you got an ego, you're going to have a problem with it, because you're going to try to think that you know more. But I come in with an open canvas of growth. The knowledge that I have already obtained, I can share that, but I'm in a process of just growing now and learning, trying to become a good assistant coach. I told him, I said, Coach, I'm going to try to become the best recruiter. I said, I'm going to try to become one of your best coaches that you can rely on, because we already have a dynamic and great staff. There's so much connection with the staff already that we have known each other. Coach Gus has been out in the Bay Area. My kids went to football and basketball camps at De La Salle, where he went. So all those things there, Clay Mosier, I've coached against him in the CBA, been around him when he was on the road scouting. I know him, and obviously the connection that I have with Coach Musselman, so all those things all take your ego out of it when you're with people that you have some understanding of who you are. It takes your ego out of the whole process. And from sitting in a head coaching seat in the NBA to now sitting in the assistant seat in college, I don't look at it from going from way up here to coming down here. I just say we're all in the coaching profession, and that's what we're doing, learning how to coach. No different when a college coach comes from college and tries to coach in the NBA, he goes through a learning curve. And those coaches, I've been pride myself on as a coach to help people, to help impact people. And when coaches have come from college to the NBA, Russ Turner, who's coach at Cal Irvine, when he came up with Mike Montgomery from Stanford to Golden State, I had already been in the league for several years. I tried to coach them, on what it was going to take to have some success in the NBA.
And then you mentioned your son making a big catch for Hawaii. That was this past season. And do you remember who that was against?
It was this past season, and I think it was in the Houston bowl game that they played in Dallas.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Were you able to go to the game?
No, wasn't able to go because COVID. They weren't
Okay.
allowing, so I wasn't able to get out to see him.
Okay. And do you know what your first day here on campus will be?
Well, I'm going to try to get have things I have to tie up here in the Bay Area, and then my days of getting out there is probably going to be over the weekend, Friday of next week, and the Saturday.
Is that an Indiana picture there in the background behind you? It's kind of hard to.
Yeah, that's a picture of me cutting down the nets.
Okay, well that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Do you have a picture of the shot in your house?
it's around here somewhere. I don't have it up. My wife gave me a little room to operate in my house, but I don't have a picture of the shot. Actually, I have a picture of a shot, but not the shot.
Yeah, I can see it shooting there, but yeah.
This
That
right
okay.
there. So
Yeah. Okay. Well, cool. Hey, well, it's really been fun talking with you. I look forward to hopefully meeting you when things, get back
Yeah.
to fully normal.
But likewise, thank you for taking this time to spend with me today as I get ready to make that new transition.